Hello and welcome to the Victory Channel. This channel exists to help people find victory from pornography and the wounds that it inflicts. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please do that because it will help this channel grow and reach more people, which I think you should agree is a good thing. Today I want to talk about objectification. I want to look at a study conducted by Princeton and Stanford psychologists. I want to talk about what Karol Wojtyła has to say about objectification in his excellent work, Love and Responsibility. And I want to discuss the rather vigorous back and forth that I had with conservative commentator Dennis Prager recently on my show, Pints with Aquinas. And perhaps we'll begin there. If you haven't yet seen the 47-minute argument we had about pornography, masturbation, lust, objectification, etc., click the link in the description below to watch it because it was quite exciting. One of the things that Prager says is that objectification has a bad name, a bad rap, but that really a wife should be glad if her husband objectifies her. Now, taken charitably, I think what he meant, I hope what he meant, was that a wife should be glad if her husband views her as something sexually desirable in the proper context. That it's not as if he was once sexually attracted to her, but now as the years have gone on, he no longer finds her sexually desirable. But this language objectification is problematic, and I'm not sure why anyone should seek to disavow it of the obvious problems it has. So what do we mean when we say that we shouldn't objectify? What does that mean at all? Well, Karol Wojtyła in Love and Responsibility says that the human person is a good towards which the only proper and adequate attitude is love. Man and woman are not like other objects, like trees and stones, that do not have their own ends, do not have an interior life. Rather, they have desires of their own. In Love and Responsibility, Wojtyła writes, "No one else can want for me. No one can substitute his act of will for mine. When we seek to do that, we objectify the person. It's not that the man and the woman aren't objects, it's that the man and the woman are objects who are also persons, who have this subjective element to them. And so when we reduce the object, which is a subject, to merely an object, we are no longer treating the man or woman as someone who ought to be loved for their own sake, and we begin using them in a sort of instrument sense. We use them to bring about my ends without reference to their own. The best quotation I can find on this comes from Anthony Esolen. Listen to this because I really think this sums it up. He says, "The human body is a precious thing, worthy of our reverence. It is not a tool, not an object of consumption like a steak or a keg of beer, not an animate provider of pleasure." What is it then? He says, it's the outward expression of a profound mystery, that of another human being. When we meet another human person, when we look at his or her face, we are in the presence of a creature whose like we have never found in all the rest of the universe. The human person is open to infinity. He can do more than apprehend the things he observes. He can imagine worlds he has never seen. Honor and reverence is due to the astounding mystery of the human person. It is a contradiction to say, I honor the human person while treating the human body as separable from the person. See, that's the objectification we're talking about, right? So when you treat it as separable from the human person, what ends up happening is you end up using it like a tool, and you may devour pornographic images of it. He says, one cannot once love the beautiful and desire to defile it. It is like loving the Pieta with an axe. And so pornography trains us in objectification. And studies have shown that men and women who are immersed in pornography tend to treat their romantic partners as objects for their consumption, just like Esolen is talking about. So here I am reading from an article from Fight the New Drug. Not long ago, Princeton and Stanford psychologists performed a study showing a group of men two sets of pictures, some of fully clothed women and others of women who had been sexualized and were barely clothed. The psychologists monitored their medial prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain involved in recognizing human faces and distinguishing one person from another. For the most part, this medial prefrontal cortex monitoring was activated with each picture. However, when the subjects of the study were shown the pictures of sexualized women, this part of the brain wasn't activated. Basically, the automatic reaction in their brains suggested that they didn't perceive the sexualized women as fully human. Rather, they saw them as objects, focusing on their bodies and body parts. Even the face can be objectified, right? So their faces would be part of that. The researchers concluded sexualized women were perceived as having the least control over their own lives, and this suggests that sexualized women are more closely associated with being the objects, not the agents of action, as compared to the clothed women in the study. Objects, not agents. And that's what we mean when we talk about the object who has his or her own interior life, own ends, etc. Pornography promotes what is often referred to as the objectifying gaze. And if you've ever been used in this way, if you've ever been looked upon merely as a means to an end, what kind of language is used when you have this experience? You say things like, he just treated me like an object, or he used me. If you've ever felt that way, whether you're a man or a woman, it feels as if violence has been done to you. And I would say that in a sense it has, in a sense, not physical violence, but violence in the sense that you were robbed of your subjectivity. You were no longer treated as a person with your own ends, but were treated as a sort of instrument to serve the ends of the one objectifying you. Here is a quote from the study. The people in pornography are often explicitly presented as objects, and porn videos are listed and labeled with the specific acts they perform or physical attributes they possess, so the observer can order porn that fits their exact expectations. With so many people consuming pornography, is it any wonder that many are developing attitudes of sexual entitlement and objectification, reducing people to physical terms and self-serving labels is the exact type of sexual objectification that sets the stage for sexual violence, which is also obviously an issue. I want to share with you a quotation that came from a woman who was part of an interview-based research study of women whose male partners frequently consumed pornography. Here's what she said. "I am no longer a sexual person or partner to him, but a sexual object. He is not really with me, not really making love to me when we have intercourse. He seems to be thinking about something or someone else, likely those porn women. Or he is just inserting me to play a role in some novel sexual scenario that he saw somewhere. He is just using me as a warm body." And that's the language I use with Prager, and I know that some people were turned off by that, but that was the point. I was trying to turn you off. The language I used was, when you objectify somebody, when you no longer have their good in mind, when you see them merely as an object to serve your own lusts, you subordinate the dignity of the other to the perceived good of your selfish desires. And you end up, in the case of a man, using a woman merely as a warm body to masturbate in. Yes, that's disgusting language, but sexual objectification and pornography are disgusting actions, and so I think we should use disgusting language because it's appropriate for those actions. We don't want to live these sorts of lives, friends. We can be trained to want it. And certainly we all understand what it means to be selfish. We've all acted in selfish ways, whether sexually or not. But in the end, not only is it corrosive to our most cherished relationships, it doesn't even get us what we want. This is the beautiful thing about the Christian ethic. If you love people like you love yourself, if you treat people as they really are, men and women created in the image and likeness of God, not only will your relationships flourish, but you will have much more satisfaction in those relationships. It turns out when you treat someone as they aren't, like you treat them like an object instead of a subject, you don't even get what you want to begin with. So let me know below how you think that pornography objectifies men and women and the sexual act, and why ultimately it's going to lead to sexual dissatisfaction.